Kol Halal, Yahawah, Bahashem, Yahawashi, all praises to the Most High Yahawah, in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahawashi. Our forefathers cleansed the temple in order to return back to the Most High Yahawah, and we need to do the same thing today. Let's take a look at 2 Chronicles 29 and 15 to kick things off. And they gathered their brethren and sanctified themselves and came, according to the commandment of the king, by the word of the Most High, to cleanse the house of Yahawah. Verse 16, and the priests went into the inner part of the house of Yahawah to cleanse it, and brought out all the uncleanness that they found in the temple of the Most High Yahawah into the court of the house of the Lord. And the Levites took it to carry it out abroad into the brook Kidron. So here we see that the priests, the Levites, were taking out that which was defiling the inside of the temple and throwing it into a river, into water essentially, to get rid of it. Verse 17, now they began on the first day of the month to sanctify, and on the 8th day of the month came they to the porch of the Most High. So they sanctified the house of the Most High in 8 days, and in the 16th day of the first month they made an end. Now after they've removed the filth and the corruption from inside the temple, a period of time passed during which they were sanctifying the temple. It didn't happen overnight, but we see that there was a period of days that this sanctification occurred over. Verse 18, 2 Chronicles 29, verse 18, then they went to Hezekiah the king and said, we have cleansed all the house of the Most High, and the altar of burnt offering, and all the vessels thereof, and the showbread table, and the vessels, and the showbread table with all the vessels thereof. So within the temple of the Most High, we get even more detail about how the cleansing went about, which included the altar as well as all the vessels that were inside of it, including those on and the showbread table itself. Verse 19, moreover, all the vessels which King Ahaz in his reign did cast away in his transgression, we have prepared and sanctified, and behold, they are before the altar of the Most High. So the previous king, under his rule, the temple became defiled, and he threw out that which was, he threw out those vessels which were beneficial to the temple. Verse 20, then Hezekiah the king rose early and gathered the rulers of the city and went up to the house of the Most High. And they brought 7 bullocks, 7 rams, and 7 lambs, and 7 he-goats for a sin offering for the kingdom, and for the sanctuary, and for Judah. And he commanded the priests, the sons of Aaron, to offer them on the altar of the Most High. So after the cleansing is complete, now the sacrifices are able to be offered up. The sacrifices could not have been offered up in the corrupted and defiled temple. It had to be cleaned first. And we'll go on in other verses to get a better understanding of why that is, but suffice to say, the Most High wants to smell the sacrifices made in a pure and a clean temple. If the sacrifices were made in a defiled temple under corrupted conditions, those sacrifices would then stink. Let me go on to 2 Chronicles 29 and 22. So they killed the bullocks, and the priests received the blood and sprinkled it on the altar. Likewise, when they had killed the rams, they sprinkled the blood upon the altar. They killed also the lambs, and they sprinkled the blood upon the altar. Verse 23, and they brought forth the he-goats for the sin offering before the king and the congregation, and they laid their hands on them. Verse 24, and the priests killed them, and they made reconciliation with their blood upon the altar to make an atonement for all Israel. For the king commanded that the burnt offering and the sin offering should be made for all Israel. So at this point we see, after the cleansing of the temple, atonement can be made for the sins of Israel. Verse 25, and he set the Levites in the house of the Most High with cymbals, with psalteries, and with harps, according to the commandment of David and of Gad the king's seer and Nathan the prophet. For so was the commandment of the Most High by his prophet. And the Levites stood with the instruments of David, and the priests with the trumpet. And Hezekiah commanded to offer the burnt offering upon the altar. And when the burnt offering began, the song of the Most High began also with the trumpet, and with the instruments ordained by David, king of Israel. So now at this point, the Levites are able to play a pure song unto the Most High. And of course, we know that relates to the new song of the 144,000 that's spoken of in the book of Revelation. 2 Chronicles 29 and 28. And all the congregation worshipped, and the singers sang, and the trumpet sounded. And all this continued until the burnt offering was finished. Verse 30, moreover, Hezekiah the king and the princes commanded the Levites to sing praise unto the Most High with the words of David and of Asaph the seer. And they sang praises with gladness, and they bowed their heads and worshipped. Verse 31, then Hezekiah answered and said, now ye have consecrated yourselves unto the Most High. Come near and bring sacrifices and thank offerings into the house of the Most High. And the congregation brought in sacrifices and thank offerings, and as many as were of a free heart burnt offerings. Verse 32, and the number of the burnt offerings which the congregation brought was 70 bullocks, and 100 rams, and 200 lambs. All these were for a burnt offering unto the Most High. And the consecrated things were 600 oxen and 3,000 sheep. But the priests were too few, for that they could not lay flat all the burnt offerings, wherefore the brethren, the Levites, did help them till the work was ended, and until the other priests had sanctified themselves. For the Levites were more upright in heart to sanctify themselves than the priests. So here what we see going on is actually a very beautiful thing happening. So there's so many offerings and sacrifices that are now being brought to this cleansed and pure table, that at the time there's not even enough priests for the work to continue. And so at this point, more priests now are being sanctified in order to complete the sacrifices. And again, this parallels to the 144,000 as more and more of us come back and cleanse our own physical temples, which is our bodies. We're able now to offer up these sacrifices to the Most High and sing praises and play that beautiful song. Let me actually pull that up in the book of Revelation, blueletterbible.com. Revelation 5 and 9, and they sung a new song, saying, thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof, for thou wast slain and hath redeemed us to the Most High by the blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation. So here we see that let me actually read one scripture up. Revelation 5 and 8. And when he had taken the book, the 4 beasts and 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of saints. So again, we see this scene spoken of in Revelation, which is occurring now in the latter days, parallel what had been going on during the account we were just reading in Second Chronicles. And then Revelation 5 and 9, and they sung a new song, saying, Thou art worthy to take the book, and to open the seals thereof, for thou wast slain, and hath redeemed us to the Most High by the blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation. And let's go to chapter 14 to get a little bit more information on the 144,000. Revelation 14 and 1, and I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written in their foreheads. So we know the lamb to be Yahawashi, and of course the 144,000 to be the governing body, the tabernacle of David that will be joint heirs and rulers of the nation of Israel, and ultimately the world. Revelation 14 and 2, and I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great hunter, and I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. Again, the musical instruments. Revelation 14 and 3, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the 4 beasts and the elders, and no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. Verse 4, these are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. They are they which follow the Lamb wheresoever he goeth. They were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto the Most High and to the Lamb. Let's go back to 2 Chronicles, now that we see the parallel with what's going on in the latter days. 2 Chronicles 29 and 35, and also the burnt offering were in abundance with the fat of the peace offerings and the drink offerings for every burnt offering. So the service of the Most High, so the service of the house of the Most High was set in order. And of course, the 144,000 are coming together to create that new house. 2 Chronicles 29 and 36, and Hezekiah rejoiced, and all the people that the Most High had prepared the people. And Hezekiah rejoiced, and all the people that Yahawah had prepared the people, for the thing was done suddenly. Very good. Now, let's take a look at what was going on inside the temple. We know that it had to be cleansed, but let's take a look at what was going on inside the temple prior to it being cleansed. This comes from the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 8 and 7. And he brought me to the door of the court, and when I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. Then said he unto me, Son of man, dig now in the wall. And when I had digged in the wall, behold, a door. Verse 9, and he said unto me, Go in and behold the wicked abominations that they do here. Verse 10, so I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beasts, and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about.